Hi, I'm Bill. I like cats and retro video games. Here's a cat. Today I want to talk about a video game that has been described as retro. 1994. Hi, I'm Claudia. Today we're taking a look at Super Metroid as we try to find out why Bill was so keen for me to play it. Okay, are you an enemy or are you a friendly jellyfish? Does it say something about this in here? Oh, wow! Okay, it just turned into a dragon. Super Metroid was released in 1994 for the SNES and is the third game in the Metroid series. In the 3 decades since its publication, it has received accolades upon accolades and is commonly regarded as one of the best games ever. Oh, this is terrible. Oh no, I don't like this. Oh no. Oh, I hate this. I hate this so much. I didn't know any of this when I first picked up the controller. Okay, when the controller was gently forced upon me for the purpose of this video. But more about that later. I started playing Super Metroid without knowing much about the game at all. To say I went in completely blind, though, would be a lie. You can't live with this man for the best part of 15 years and not absorb some retro video games lore by osmosis. I knew that the main character being female was a big deal when the first game of the series came out. Wait, why do I strip down to my underwear before I die? I knew that it was set in a futuristic space world that the player explores bit by bit. And I had the vague notion that this bit-by-bit exploration was the main appeal of this game for many players, which immediately made me worry that I was going to be getting lost a lot. And yeah, it is, and I did. I spent significantly more time walking through the same space caverns and space corridors and space lava pits than I did actually exploring new places. There's hours of footage of me just running around in circles. Also falling into the aforementioned lava pits with some frequency. Ha! Froze the seahorse. Oh no, and then I fell in the lava. And then I fell in the lava again. And then I fell in the lava again. And then I fell in the lava again. After playing Super Metroid for a few hours, I started to think about how I was going to talk about it in this video. I normally talk about books on YouTube. This is not a book. It came with a book, which is this player's guide, and we'll get to that later in the video. But a game is a fundamentally different medium to a book. I know, this is exactly the deeply philosophical insight you come to the retro sofa for, am I right? My brain couldn't stop trying to draw parallels between novels, safe, comfortable words on a page, and this. Where books are familiar and easy, this I can only describe as a cartridge full of discomfort and frustration. No. This is how I die. This is actually how I die here. Oh. I was not prepared for this at all. All I knew was that I was going to play this game of Bill's choosing and then make a video about it for the Retro Sofa. He, in exchange, was going to read Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, which I should point out was also of his choosing, because I wouldn't wish Wuthering Heights upon my worst enemy. So yeah, Super Metroid. I'm fairly certain that discomfort and frustration were not on the vision board when the game was first devised by its developers, a team led by, at this point already veteran game designer Yoshio Sakamoto. See, I can do research too. Not that there'll be too much of that in this video, since this is mostly the story of how I, a grown woman, very nearly had a nervous breakdown because I kept getting eaten by murderous space flowers over and over and over again. Anyway, I was supposed to explore this game without any prior knowledge and without any help from Bill. I was supposed to get in there and make it through, armed only with my God-given talents, natural skills, and with this player's guide. That didn't quite go according to plan because Bill, to his credit, couldn't help but come to my aid when hearing my cries of distress. Bill?
Somewhat urgent. How do we get out of the swamp?
Is this cheating? Maybe, but I'd rather cheat and admit to it than literally die of wall jump induced ennui.
Hey, you want to do like a little wall jump for me?
So, what did I make of this game? I don't know if you can tell, but I found it difficult. Difficult to play and difficult to understand. There's a certain amount of video games related knowledge you need in order for this to make sense on a first go. For example, I didn't know there was a run button.
Bill?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to ask you in situations where I'm absolutely stuck? I'm here. Super stuck. There's a run button. Oh, what?
It seems obvious to you watching this because every video game ever has at least two modes of moving the main character through the world, a walking speed and a running speed. Even I knew this going into this game. I did not spend the 1990s under a rock, but the walking speed in Super Metroid already looks like running. So I genuinely didn't consider that I might be able to run even faster if I pressed the B button. Once again, Bill had to jump in to point out this really quite obvious feature. I expect that most people who play Super Metroid for the first time do not have to be told that they can also run. Even beyond these absolute basics of video game mechanics, Super Metroid is really stingy with information. It doesn't tell you where to go or what to do or how various enemies and monsters function. When you find a new item, whether that's an upgrade to your armor or a new weapon, for the most part what you get is just a name. Some of these names are self-explanatory. Super missiles, ice beam, power bomb. Others, not so much.
What the hell is a spacer?
That's where the player's guide comes in handy, except sometimes it doesn't. For example, there's a really useful list of weapon and armor upgrades on this page, which tells you exactly what the spacer and various suit do, but it's incomplete. For example, it doesn't explain how the reserve tank works.
Reserve tank? What's a reserve tank? Let's look it up. You know, it doesn't say anything about reserve tanks.
There is a paragraph about it, but only many pages later in this section of the guide. I'm not entirely sure how this player's guide is supposed to work. Surely if the player is expected to read it start to finish before starting the game, they'll be spoiled. About monsters, about places, about bosses, about upgrades. But the whole point of the game is the exploration, right? Not much to explore if you already know all the secrets. Remember me not knowing how to run? Had I taken the time to read the player's guide properly before starting the game, I would have seen the run function mentioned right here on page 6. Instead, I used the guide to look things up whenever I got stuck or when I was confronted with something new.
Okay. What's that? What is that? Go shoot it. I have a bomb! Bomb! Pressing X while in ball form drops a small low-powered explosive, but only if you've collected this icon first. What icon? Let's go. What now? Oh no! It's turned into a monster. Oh no, I don't like this. I don't like this. I thought it was just a friendly gift. I'm on 35 life. 25 life, 17 life. It lost an arm, but I'm losing everything. I'm dead. I'm on 13. This isn't going well. I'm on 5. Thing's still alive. I'm dead. Strip down to my underwear and try again. And make sure every one of those rockets hits. 1. That didn't hit. Yeah, I'm not going to survive this. Oh, this is terrible. Trying to not get hit so much by turning into a ball, but then I'd forget to unturn and I'm dead. That's not him. That's not him. Ooh, it's Italian. Chorizo is the first major adversary you'll face, but he shouldn't prove too much of a hurdle. Oh, shut up!
When I first met Craig, for example. Who's Craig? Only the chunkiest little alligator you'll ever have the pleasure to meet.
Okay, cool. It worked. Oh no, what am I supposed to do with that? Oh no! Oh no, it's a boss! I was not prepared for that. Okay, let's equip some rockets. Okay, okay, that's bad. That's quite bad, isn't it? I'm definitely looking that up in the manual once I died.
I hope he dies a slow and very painful death. The player's guide has a whole page about him which describes him as a tough adversary, before giving a pretty detailed explanation for how to beat him.
Craig. By far the largest guardian in the game, Craig will prove a tough adversary. He only has one weak spot, and that's the inside of his mouth. Shoot him in the head when he roars in pain. Lob as many rockets and laser bolts down his throat as possible. Oh no.
Did you say Craig?
Craig.
Even so, defeating him took what felt like years of chucking super missiles at him.
I think I beat Craig.
But the game was not yet over. Oh no, the game might never be over. At time of recording, I still haven't completed it. I spent a significant part of the last month playing it. I've got hours and hours of game time, and yet I'm just not skilled enough. What can I say?
Oh god. Bill.
The player's guide undeniably saved me some time. For example, had it not been for this paragraph about how to defeat Dragon, I'd probably still be trapped in Meridia, desperately chucking super missiles in his vague direction. But thanks to the guide, I managed to defeat him fairly quickly by shooting a grappling beam into the gun ports at the side of the screen while being held aloft by him.
What was the grappling hook and then? Yeah, it's not getting me close enough to any of them. Yay, I got it. So it's zapping me. Oh, wow, okay. Phew! Can't believe I survived that. No, not the minions! Okay, they just come to mourn, that's fine.
Let's be honest, I never would have thought of that myself. Never. Super Metroid is a game for people who appreciate games. If it was a book, we'd call it a classic. And yes, here we are talking about books again. But it's a comparison too good to ignore. In books, when we talk about classics, we have certain ideas and expectations about them. As a society, we consider a book a classic if it fits arbitrary and frankly unquantifiable criteria, such as genre-defining and influence literary history, and contains truth about the human condition. I should point out here that I disagree with this common definition of classic literature, but that's not what this video is about. Classics also have a reputation for being difficult and inaccessible. When we try and apply these criteria to Super Metroid, we see a lot of parallels. It's a game with an undeniable legacy, but it's also a pioneer in its genre. Wikipedia informs me that it's one of the first open-world games to feature a map, something that has, of course, become a staple of gameplay ever since. The other thing Super Metroid has in common with literary classics is the aforementioned inaccessibility. Hang on a minute, you might say. Super Metroid isn't inaccessible at all. It's a perfectly structured, cleverly unfolding game that guides the player through its world in small steps, uncovering it one mystery at a time. Remember, you are talking to the woman who didn't know there was a run button. Okay, this is as good a point as any to talk about the wall jumping thing. Bill, bless his nerdy little heart, was very excited about the wall jump. There's a point in the game where you walk into this tall room and are greeted by 3 leprechaun bunnies practicing their wall jumping abilities. They do a little dance and hop out of frame, showing off their wall jump. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I tell you that these wall jumping leprechauns are going to haunt me in my nightmares. This is, objectively speaking, a really cool piece of game design. An ability that, if you're adventurous enough, you might even discover for yourself long before the leprechauns show you. If, on the other hand, you're not very good at buttons, then you just end up developing violent fantasies about finding every single leprechaun on this planet and really giving them something to cackle about. I didn't find learning the skill of wall jump fun at all. I found it stressful.
What? No. Oh, I'll never be able to do this. Huh? Oh. I'll never manage that again.
I did not get a sense of satisfaction and achievement once I'd never mastered, once I'd at least somewhat managed the wall jump.
They're mocking me. That's what despair feels like.
What I got was a sense of very high walls and barely reachable ledges coming up in every room and every cave on this godforsaken planet from here on until the end of the game. I knew that now this game had given me this skill, it would expect me to use it. It was exactly the same when I got to the grappling beam or the space jump.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough. That is pretty cool. That's a lot better than the stupid grappling beam.
With every upgrade, the game's expectations on me grew, until I felt its disapproval like that of a German parent confronted with a B on their child's school report. I assume I had the great fortune of not growing up with German parents. Once I got the plasma beam, or as the manual calls it, the plasma ray, which it describes as the most powerful gun add-on, my thought wasn't, oh yay, big gun goes boom, but rather along the lines of, oh no, the monsters are going to be absolutely insufferable from now on. As indeed they were. There were a few moments of actual joy in this, most notably when you get to the wrecked ship and you get the gravity suit there. You get to this long room, and at the end there's a Chozo statue, like the ones that have bestowed gifts upon Samus this entire game. This one, though, presents us with an empty hand, only to come to life and take a rolled-up Samus through to a secret basement, where she then gets the gravity suit.
This is stupid. Like, why would you even, like, architecturally, why would you make a room like that? Who's this for? It's so tedious, and there's probably nothing at the end. It's probably just disappointment. Oh, okay. It squeezed me. Do I get something? Yay, thank you. But, you know, I might as well have bothered, like, ooh, secret. Go down to the basement. And it just drops me, probably. No? Yep. I knew it. Well, thank you, kind statue. Oh. Yay! Gravity suit damage is reduced to a quarter, but most importantly, it allows Samus to move freely in water as if it were dry land. Essentially, we're negotiating the caverns of Meridia. Location wrecked ship. Cool. Well, that's nice. I'm purple!
Yeah, that moment is incredibly cool and fun and delightful, and had the game sprinkled just a few more of those into its various chambers of despair, I might have gone through it with a bit more excitement and a bit less frustration. Another cool bit is on Meridia, where you get to a room with spikes on the floor and grappling beam hooks on the ceiling. So far, so familiar. But surprise, the spikes don't hurt Samus when she falls down on them, because they're actually in the foreground, concealing a hidden corridor with a hole in the ground that leads through to a secret room below. I expect some players discover that the spikes aren't real when they accidentally fall down on them and surprisingly don't get hurt. Me, of course, being absolutely flawless with the grappling beam, I ended up noticing the hole in the ground when looking at the room through the X-ray scope.
Oh, I'm trapped. Well, there's got to be some sort of secret exit here. Someone literally trapped me here. Ah. Wait, what?
Wait, what? Hang on, what? Wait, what?
Either way, it's a cute little play with expectations. It's features like this that make me realize that, yes, while I found the experience of playing this game more frustrating than rewarding, objectively, it is a very well designed game. Which takes us right back to the definition of a classic. And here's what really separates classic games from classic books. Classic books are something that most people are forced to consume at some point in their lives, usually in school. There's certain bad connotations that stick to classic books. Memories of failed exams, perhaps a feeling of inadequacy at not understanding them, resentment that you were made to read these ancient and irrelevant books. There's none of that with video games. You didn't have school teachers quizzing you on the symbolism of mushrooms in Super Mario Bros., or The Legend of Zelda as a religious allegory, or the expression of gender in Super Metroid.
Metroid's a lady?
That's what you come to the retro sofa for, right? You get the idea. Generally speaking, no one's making you play classic video games. Chances are, if you pick up Super Metroid, you do it out of interest and curiosity, and most importantly, your own free will. I'm the exception here because when Bill said, "Hey, you know what'd be funny? If you do a video for the retro sofa and I do one for Spinster's Library," I didn't respond with, "Are you mad? I'm not giving up a whole month's worth of evenings to do something I'm neither good at nor enjoy." Yet here we are, and I'm left with a feeling that a lot of people probably have when reading classic literature. I can tell that this is a well-made game in terms of gameplay mechanics, storytelling, world building. I can see why it has become the classic that it is, why it features on so many best games ever lists. I understand how this cemented its place in video game history. I understand why Bill asked me to play it and then make a video about it. I still didn't enjoy that experience. Every gaming session left me annoyed and frustrated, and not in the "I can do better next time" way that motivates and drives progress. No, it just left me wondering how anyone could enjoy this at all. Like, why do people actually choose to play this? Which is probably how a lot of people feel about classic literature, which I love. This was undeniably a learning experience. I learned that some video games are just not for me. In particular those that require any amount of coordination, timing, or patience. I really hope Bill makes an actual retro sofa video about this game at some point, because clearly it deserves to be discussed by someone who appreciates it.
Oh, nice little lift. Oh. Okay. Let's try this again. Ah. Yes. Okay, that's a long room, so let's run through it. Okay, I see. I did it. Oh, come on! He's back as a zombie! That's not fair. Oh, okay. figured it out by myself.
And you deserve that too. But thank you for sticking with me anyway. Thanks to Ultramuffin for supporting the channel, and thank you for joining me on the retro sofa.
See, I think I managed to get a few hits in and stuff, but I'm still like down 2 thingies. Yeah. It's not going well. Yeah, I'm just not going to defeat this. Like, I don't know how. Maybe it's time for the super missiles, because I'm not gonna win this. Oh yeah, it's gone red now and I'm nearly dead. I've just got my life refill, so that's not gonna last long. Yeah, I'm dead. I think it just... Is it distracting? I really hope it's distracting. And not just coming back stronger and badder. Yay! I did it!
Fantastic. You remained resolute and resourceful in an atmosphere of extreme pessimism.